You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. All right. Today, we're talking about the girls, the twins, the knockers, your boobs, ladies. We are talking about the girls. And most importantly, breast health and, what to do if you find out that they're not so healthy and you've got the C words. So with me today is Michelle Hoglan, who is a breast cancer survivor of 5 years. Yay. And she is going to help us learn about the girls. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. 5-year breast cancer survivor, no history of cancer in my family whatsoever. So when I got my initial diagnosis, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. But I've learned so much over the last 5 years. The national statistic is 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. In Colorado, it's 1 in 7, which is where I'm living now with my family. And, other states, it's different. There are some states where it's 1 in 6. So there's just... I don't know if it's because we're living longer, it's the environment, it's stress, not sure, but the numbers continue to rise, and it's something that we all need to be aware of and, really start paying attention to our bodies and the resources that are available out there for us.
Absolutely. So how did you first find, did you find a lump or, was it on a mammogram or,
Well, it's funny. And a lot of women that I've talked to since, pretty much the same thing. And I find this so fascinating. They're gone now, but I had dense breast tissue. And so I was used to going back the second time to have another mammogram because, the first one, they didn't like what they saw, or, it was just too cloudy, whatever. So I got the second call, and I had not been in probably 2.5 years, shame on me, but life got in the way, and that's what happens with a lot of women. Life got in the way. I was busy. Again, no history of cancer in my family. And I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. So I went, got the second call. Then I got the third call, to go back in for imaging. They wanted to do the imaging instead of it's a different kind of digital imaging than it is with the mammogram. Then they didn't like the way that looked. So they wanted me to come in for a ultrasound. Well, at the time, my insurance company, was being kind of crazy about stuff. So I went ahead and went in with the ultrasound. They came back and said, there's 2 spots that we're not sure about. It could be nothing, but we really would like to do a biopsy. And so where the 2 spots are, unfortunately, they're not in an area where we can just do one single biopsy. We're going to have to go in 2 different ways. So, insurance did not cover the biopsy that I had at the time, the insurance that I had at the time. That's a whole nother show. And so I put it off for a couple of months because I was going to have to pay cash up front, $5,000 to get this biopsies done. All worked out. I got it done on a Friday. And, I got to say those biopsies were, I loved the staff where I had it done. They were giving me a back massage because I literally had to lay on a table with my boob hanging through a hole at the bottom while they went in with something that sounded almost like a power washer, when you're power washing your
car.
Gosh. Yeah, it was making that sound, but it was sucking stuff out. It was very bizarre. So, and I will say this, I have to tell you, if you're going to go in for a biopsy for anything, don't do it on a Friday, do it during the week, because I did it on a Friday afternoon. So I had to wait the entire weekend to get my results back. And I didn't get a call until like 4:00 that Monday afternoon, September 12th. I'll never remember it. It was a little after 4. And I got the call that I had breast cancer and I was stage 2. And the nurse navigator was on it and immediately got me set up with meeting. She had a list of surgeons for me to choose from. They had scheduled me for an MRI that Friday, a few days from then. And the ball started rolling from there.
Wow. I mean, before you can even process what's going on, they're like, all right, we're going to get you in and get this taken care of. And you're still like going, wait, you said I had what now?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it was crazy. And I, it's like a sucker punch to the gut. I mean, with any major diagnosis like that, it doesn't matter what type of cancer it is or heart disease or anything like that. It's just such a sucker punch. And I remember, I went through all the emotions, and then you try to, me personally, not everybody's like this. You start Googling things, you start looking things up, you start wanting to get answers to all your questions, you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I noticed when I was doing that there was not, I want to rephrase this. There is a ton of information out there. It's just not easy to find sometimes for breast cancer. I can't speak for all other illnesses or diagnosis.
Sure.
So as I was going through all of that, I created a private Facebook group called the Boob Report to keep my friends and family updated on doctor's appointments, surgeries, things like that. So, quite honestly, it saved me the time of having to make all the phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my friends were like, oh, I love the name. And I was like, you got to have a sense of humor, or else you're in the corner in a ball crying your eyes out. So I did that. And then a couple of friends that were in the group it motivated them to go get their mammograms, and they ended up getting diagnosed with breast cancer. They're both fine, doing fantastic. But my husband was like, babe, you got to do something with this. You got to make something out of this. So it's gone through several iterations over the past few years, but within the last year and a half, I've really developed it as a one-stop shop for women here in the Colorado area for right now, where they can find a support group, wigs, after chemo, best place to buy a bra, research, links to different research. I've partnered with the state of Colorado because there's a lot of information out there for women who are unemployed, don't have health insurance, or minority women who may not have access to treatment, prevention, going and getting the mammograms in the first place. So I'm very lucky in the fact that I was able to do that. And that is going to be how I move forward into all 50 states, is I will be providing not only national information, but local information to Texas, Florida, Connecticut. So that's my goal. I want to be able to give back, because I was very blessed in the fact that even though I was stage 2 and I had 6 tumors, bilateral mastectomy, I did not have to do chemo, did not have to do radiation. So my journey, while it was still difficult, was a little easier than a lot of women's. And I just wanted to create a resource for women to find answers to their questions so they weren't having to search all over the place.
I love that. With the whole Boob Report thing, the company, not the whole cancer part, but I love it. You have taken this and created something to help other women. I kind of did the same thing with my nonprofit, the Global Association for Trauma Recovery. I found the same thing. There's so much information about different types of trauma and stuff, and how, but it's just scattered. Mm-hmm. And somebody's going through a trauma, their mind is already scattered. So, that's kind of the whole premise behind my nonprofit as well, is to, be a kind of a one-stop shop for people who are going through different types of trauma. So,
I think that's beautiful.
I think it's a great idea what you're doing.
Yeah, you understand that when you're hit with something like that, you can't think straight. I mean, and as women, the first thing that started going through my mind was, oh my God, how am I going to tell my son and daughter? How am I going to, be there for my husband? It was putting everybody else first ahead of me. And we do that as women. That's who we are. We're compassionate, we're selfless. We put everything else first. So that was another reason why I wanted to do this, because again, I want to make it as easy as possible for women to find the resources that they want. Now, for me, it's important that I share that we are not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit, but a portion of our proceeds is donated to nonprofits who work specifically with women going through breast cancer. So,
and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a for-profit, for sure. So I want to touch a little bit on some of the things that you said about, women who don't have access to health insurance or medical care. I don't have health insurance, and I think my last mammogram was 5-6 years ago, maybe even longer. And it's because I just, who has the money to just fork out of pocket like that,
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, well, breast cancer isn't one of my family either, so we can put this off. But really, you can't. And I just, there's something that we need to do, and I don't know what it is, and maybe you're already working on this, but I think mammogram screenings, these preventative screenings, shouldn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Or very nominal, especially for people who don't have health insurance, because, that's one of the reasons why I put it off is like, okay, well, if I did ever, God forbid, end up with breast cancer, I don't have health insurance, so I'm screwed anyway. I there's no way I can get treatment. And I'm not the only person in that boat.
Absolutely. And and that's the thing. I mean, when I got diagnosed, the insurance that I had was absolutely bare bones. I mean, they weren't going to cover anything. So we literally had to bump up to a much more costly per month insurance plan. And they, I don't, out of the kindness of their heart or whatever you want to call it, they retroed it back to cover the biopsies and things like that. But I mean, my husband and I own a marketing agency. We're self-employed, so we don't get that, discount on insurance that someone does working for, a company or something. So I absolutely agree with you. And that's why I was so excited to partner with the state, because they do preventative on up to palliative care. And they have information for all of those resources. And they take into consideration someone who does not have insurance or, is unemployed or is a minority individual that just doesn't have access to any of this information. Now, the thing is that, state governments, they don't have a marketing budget for something like that. So I've partnered with them so that I can have that information on the website and market that for them. Because to me, that's the most important thing, is someone, say in your shoes, that you can reach out on a link through our website, through the state that you live in, and find out what resources are available to you, so that you don't have to just, cross your fingers and say, well, I hope nothing happens because I can't afford insurance.
Exactly.
I know nobody should have to live that way. Nobody should. And that's, again, that's a whole nother show talking about, coverage and preventive care and all that. But, that's my goal, is I want everyone, women going through breast cancer, to actually know that there are resources out there available to them. So, if I can save one woman, that's fantastic. If I can save more than that, it's like a dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Excuse me. So let's, kind of flip around a little bit and let's talk about, the emotions and, the trauma that you went through, because it is a trauma, I mean, you get this phone call and you're like, yep, you've got cancer. And I've never had cancer, thank God, knock on wood. So I can't say how how it would feel, but I imagine it would be terrifying, devastating,
Mm-hmm.
And just, you just kind of go through a flood of emotions. So, what was that like, especially in the early days when everything was kind of a whirlwind?
Well, yeah, I've been very open about this on my podcast, and on different things that I've done with people and interviewed with people. It absolutely is a trauma, and it can cause a lot of anxiety and depression because of the pain. Because as a woman myself, I felt like I had let my husband and my children down by getting sick. I mean, there is just a roller coaster of emotions that you go through. And one thing that I like to say, and a lot of people say this as well, is every woman's journey is different. Even if you're not going through breast cancer, every woman's journey is different because we're unique. We're unique. The things that we do, the compassion that we have, multitasking, it's just, we're unique individuals. And when something like that hits us out of the blue, there are some women that deal with it by just being angry and throwing things, other women that just curl up in a ball and cry, and other women that are like, oh, okay, well, now I got to check this on my list, and this is what I need to deal with going forward. None of those scenarios are wrong. It's just, you have to experience it in your own way. Now, I will say that I'm a big proponent for mental health, because I suffered a bit from anxiety and depression before my diagnosis, and it was just exacerbated with my diagnosis. Oh yeah. So I very proudly say that I have an amazing therapist that I talk to, and she has helped me tremendously. And I think, along with preventative care, that should be easily accessible for people as well, because it is a trauma getting that phone call saying, hey, guess what? You've got something in your body that's trying to kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that's something that I'm working on too with the nonprofit, is creating a funding program to help people who can't get or pay for therapy and that kind of thing to be able to afford it. So that is something that we're rolling out this year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because that's, that is something else that I found is that mental health care is not easily accessible. It's not affordable. A lot of times insurance won't cover it. And if insurance does cover it, most therapists and counselors and stuff won't take insurance because they take forever to pay. So a lot of people just go untreated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, and that's another thing with what I'm doing is that there are, so for example, here in the Denver metro area in Colorado, at the University of Denver, a woman I had on my podcast, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she noticed the same thing, that, the mental health was not available to women who were going through this. And it's a whole different level of trauma, or PTSD, if you want to call it that, to deal with a diagnosis like that. So she helped create a program through their psychology department to get therapists trained specifically to work with oncology patients, people that are going through cancer.
That's awesome.
So yeah, because it's a whole different, feeling and experience and fear going through cancer than it is being in a car accident or some other traumatic event. It's, there are specific triggers and things you go through when you've gotten a diagnosis of cancer.
So, let's say one of our listeners out there has just recently got the diagnosis, or, something like that. What does she need to do? What does she need to be aware of? What kind of questions should she be asking?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And as talking to women, as I've gone through this over the last 5 years, I was very lucky with my surgeons and my oncologist that I was able to really be an active participant in my recovery, in the surgery, in the recovery and all of that. I highly recommend, if you can, have your significant other, your BFF, an in-law, a brother or sister, someone there with you as an advocate. And now I realize now, with the world the way it is, that sometimes that's hard to have someone in there. So maybe schedule a Zoom meeting with the doctor so that you can have them on the call as well. Having that advocate there with you is incredibly beneficial because they can help you remember to ask questions. They can help you remember the information that the doctor gave you. Because it's overwhelming. My first oncologist, I'm sitting there and I ended up having 6 tumors. The MRI only picked up 4. My largest tumor was 4.5 centimeters. Which, in big picture, when you think about that, you're like, well, that's not that big. Well, we're sitting there in her office and she, while was an excellent oncologist, she really didn't have that compassionate bedside manner, that little sensitive old me needed. And she's like, well, just so you had your 6 tumors. One of them was 4.5 centimeters. Well, there's a billion cancer cells in 1 centimeter. And
she told you that?
Yeah. And I just,
nice.
My mouth just dropped. My husband was sitting next to me and put his arm around me and goes, you're going to be talking to me for the rest of this appointment because you just lost her. You lost her.
Oh my God.
And I literally do not remember anything that was said after that. So it's very important to have an advocate there with you. And another thing for me is that when I met with my plastic surgeon, I didn't get my implants right away. I had a bilateral mastectomy. I did the expanders, which I got to tell you, whoever created those, not a good person. Those are the most god-awful, painful thing. And I'm totally upfront with women about that. Just be prepared. They suck. My plastic surgeon set me up with physical therapy so that I met with the physical therapist before surgery and then 3 weeks after so that she could start moving stuff around and get rid of that scar tissue and all of that. I am amazed at how many women's doctors do not recommend that. And I don't think it's on purpose. I just don't think that some of them think about that. You don't think physical therapy when you think of your boobs, but it is highly, highly effective. It does help when you go back in to get the implants and then continue with that physical therapy for a while, because that can help with lymphedema. Because when they take, biopsies of your lymph nodes, when they're in there, there is a chance that you can develop lymphedema, which is the swelling of your limbs because your lymph nodes are not flushing everything out. So physical therapy helps with that. There's also finding a massage therapist that is certified in lymphatic drainage massage is key, because going and seeing them helps keep everything moving. I will be seeing a massage therapist like that for the rest of my life, because quite honestly, when you, and this is with anyone who's gone through a cancer diagnosis, when you have surgery like that, or you have lymph nodes removed or something for the rest of your life, you have a chance to possibly develop lymphedema because your lymph nodes are compromised.
Gotcha.
So that is incredibly important. And the self-care is so important, taking care of yourself, spending time with friends, spending time with family. If you need alone time, that's hugely important as well. But don't think that just because, you just had a lumpectomy, so you didn't have to have a bilateral mastectomy. So you need to be quiet.
You can't compare traumas.
Cannot compare, because that's what I did. I didn't have to do chemo or radiation. So I was struggling and didn't give myself the permission to let myself know that my body was rejecting my initial implants. So I lived in utter pain for 3 years because I was like, you big baby, shut up. You didn't have to do chemo or radiation. And I wasn't acknowledging the fact that I was in constant pain from those initial implants. So yeah, it's being true to yourself and honest with yourself and speaking up. And again, I think that's something that women struggle with. Not a lot of women, but some women do. They don't want to be the squeaky wheel,
Yep.
They don't want to do it. And it's taken me time to learn that you need to speak up for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us,
Yes.
sharing about your story and being open and candid about that, and giving our, our listeners some tips and everything. Hopefully anybody out there going through this, I pray that everything ends well. Definitely reach out to Michelle. Her website is theboobreport.com.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to remember. And I'll have everything in the show notes as always. If you go to therealityofitall.com and pull up Michelle's episode, all her contact information will be there. And I'm sure if you have questions, that Michelle will have no problems answering your questions for you.
No, that's what we're here for.
Helping you find the right direction.
Absolutely. We actually have a private Facebook group for women to be in to ask questions. And it's amazing, the other women that are in the group, how they just jump in and answer. Well, this is what worked for me. My friend told me about this. So there's a lot of, community and virtual love and hugs in there for women who have been diagnosed.
Love it. Love it. And we'll make sure those links are in the show notes too as well. So, all right. Well, thank you again, Michelle, and listeners. Thank you as always. And we'll talk to you in the next show. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.